It was supposed to be a weekend of brotherhood on the coast, but as the tide rolled in on Southcore banks, one soldier vanished into the darkness, leaving everything behind. By morning, a group of 7 remained, but Enrique Roman-Martinez was gone forever. Nova, After Dark. You are standing on a remote island off the coast of North Carolina, listening to the wind whip across the sand as a 21-year-old paratrooper walks away from his campsite. You have to ask yourself how a trained soldier simply disappears without a trace, leaving his survival gear and wallet behind while his companions supposedly sleep just yards away. May 22, 2020, Memorial Day weekend. 8 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, loaded boats and crossed the Sound to Southcore Banks, a narrow 26-mile barrier island inside Cape Lookout National Seashore. The island is accessible only by water. No bridges, no roads, limited cell service. Just sand, dunes, and the Atlantic on both sides. Among the group was specialist Enrique Roman-Martinez, a 21-year-old paratrooper from Chino, California. Enrique had joined the Army at 17. He worked as a human resources specialist. He was less than a year from the end of his service term. His older sister, Griselda Martinez, says he had plans. He wanted to buy his first car. He wanted to move in with her. He wanted to go to school. They were planning a trip to Japan. Griselda says his tone had changed over the last year, that he said he wanted to come home, but he also had a lot to look forward to. He never made it off that island. That night, the group set up camp on the beach. A fire was built. Park Ranger Nate Toring would later confirm the National Seashore was busy that holiday weekend, with hundreds of vehicles and thousands of visitors across the island. The soldiers were far from the structure of Fort Bragg, far from their barracks, far from anyone watching. According to the 7 soldiers who were there, Enrique was last seen around midnight, walking away from the campsite wearing only blue shorts. No shoes, no shirt, no phone, no wallet, no glasses. All of it left behind inside his tent. Later, the Army would charge 3 of those soldiers with using LSD the night Enrique died. So the question is not just what happened to Enrique in the dark. The question is what was happening at that campsite before he walked away, and whether anyone was in a state to accurately remember or honestly report what they saw. Morning of May 23rd. Enrique was gone. The group woke and he was not in his tent. His belongings were untouched. His phone sat on the fabric floor. His wallet lay where he had placed it. His glasses, which he needed to see, were still there. A trained paratrooper does not walk into a wilderness without his vision, his identification, or his shoes. The group says they searched the dunes and the beach. They called his name into the wind. There was no answer. The tide had erased any footprints. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher. The heat intensified. And the 7 soldiers who had spent the night with Enrique did not call for help. They did not contact the park rangers. They did not radio the Coast Guard. They searched, or they say they searched, and then they waited. A soldier was missing on a remote island, and the people who were last with him spent the entire morning and the entire afternoon doing nothing to bring in outside help. Here is the detail that changes everything. Between 1 and 2 in the afternoon on Saturday, May 23rd, 2 uniformed National Park Service rangers in marked vehicles made direct contact with the group. The rangers asked the soldiers to move their illegally parked vehicles. This was a face-to-face interaction. Rangers and campers standing on the same sand, talking. Enrique had been missing since midnight. It had been 13 hours. And at no point during that interaction did anyone from the group mention a missing person. Not one of the 7 soldiers told the rangers that their friend was gone. They did not say he had walked off. They did not say they were worried. They did not ask for help searching. They moved their illegally parked vehicles. The rangers drove away, not knowing that a man was missing on the island they patrolled. Think about that. A group of soldiers, one of their own missing for 13 hours, and when authority shows up, they say nothing. They comply with a parking request and let the rangers leave. What does that tell you? It was not until nearly 7 in the evening, roughly 19 hours after Enrique was last seen, that someone in the group finally called 911. The call was made by specialist Alex Becerra. He told the dispatcher they had seen Enrique walk away around midnight, wearing only blue shorts. He said, "When we woke up, he was not here, and we have been looking for him all day." 19 hours. A missing soldier on a remote island. And the first call for help came at sunset, not sunrise. Then Becerra offered the dispatcher a theory. He said the group was worried Enrique might have hurt himself. He said Enrique was not diagnosed but had suicidal tendencies. So the first explanation offered was not that something had happened to Enrique at the campsite. The first explanation was that Enrique had wandered off and harmed himself. It is a convenient story. It puts the responsibility on the missing man and not on the 7 who were with him. And it was the story they chose to tell before anyone else could ask questions. The 911 call triggered a massive response. Coast Guard helicopters swept the coastline, their searchlights cutting through the dark. Ground teams fanned across the island and the surrounding waters. Park rangers, military police, and volunteers combed the dunes, the thickets, and the shoreline. The search continued for days. Ranger Nate Turing noted that the narrow 26-mile island is not an easy place to stay lost for long unless something else is wrong. The geography works against you. There is water on both sides. There is nowhere to go. The wind and sand had erased any trail Enrique might have left. There was no sign of a struggle, no footprints leading away from camp, no body on the beach, no clothing caught in the dunes, just an empty campsite, 7 soldiers, and a silence that would last for 6 days. The searchers were looking for a man who, according to the only witnesses, had simply walked into the dark and never come back. It took 3 days for the Army's Criminal Investigation Division to be notified. CID was alerted on May the 25th, 2020, 3 days after Enrique was last seen. They say the investigation was launched immediately, and agents were on location the next morning, May 26th. By then, the campsite had been disturbed. The 7 soldiers had been living there for days. Any physical evidence that might have existed at the scene of Enrique's disappearance had been walked over, slept on, rained on, and washed away. A task force was assembled. It included CID special agents, FBI personnel, and the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit. They would go on to conduct more than 400 interviews and submit more than 100 items for analysis. But the delay in getting investigators to that island is a fact the family would never forget. 3 days. In a missing person case, the first 48 hours are everything, and no one called CID until the 3rd day, May 29th, 2020. 6 days after Enrique vanished, partial human remains washed onto the shore of Shackleford Banks, near the campsite. They were found by a beachgoer, not by the search teams. The remains were identified 1 week later as those of specialist Enrique Roman-Martinez. He was 21 years old. The medical examiner determined the cause of death to be homicide. The manner, unknown. His head had washed ashore. The rest of his body was never recovered. No weapon was found. No suspect was named. No one was charged with his murder. A soldier who was last seen walking into the dark in blue shorts was now confirmed dead, killed by another person, and the ocean had returned only part of him. The question was no longer where is Enrique? The question was who killed him, and why were the only people with him that night still walking free? The task force worked the case for 18 months. CID special agents, the FBI, and the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit conducted more than 400 interviews. They submitted more than 100 items for forensic analysis. They expended, in their own words, thousands of hours of investigative effort. And then they reached a point where there were no unaddressed investigative leads and no viable leads being developed. The investigation was formally labeled a cold case. CID says it continues to investigate using established cold case protocols and techniques. But a cold case label means the leads have run out. It means the people who know what happened on that island have not talked, and the evidence that would prove it has not been found. The Army initially offered a reward of $25,000 for information leading to a conviction. That reward was later increased to $50,000. $50,000, and still no one has come forward. 3 of the soldiers who camped with Enrique were charged. Specialist Alex Becerra, the man who made the 911 call, Specialist Landrum, and Specialist Anna-Marie Koschel. But they were not charged with murder. They were not charged with manslaughter. They were not charged with anything related to Enrique's death. They were charged with using LSD the night Enrique died, with violating Fort Bragg's COVID-19 travel rules, and with conspiring to make a false statement the day Enrique was reported missing. A false statement. The day he was reported missing. They faced a general court-martial for those charges, and those charges alone. The cause of Enrique's death remained, in the words of an 82nd Airborne spokesman, unsolved. So the Army could prove that soldiers used drugs and lied. The Army could not prove, or would not charge, who killed one of their own. 7 soldiers went camping. 1 came back dead. 3 were court-martialed for LSD and lies. And 0 were charged with his murder. Enrique's family refused to be quiet. His mother and his sister Griselda traveled from California to North Carolina, stood on the sand where Enrique was last seen, and asked the public for help. Griselda told reporters that her brother wanted to live, that they had plans together, that he was going to buy his first car and move in with her. Congresswoman Norma Torres, who represents California's 35th district, took up the family's cause. She said she was very unhappy that the Army did not act more quickly. She said that when it comes to the Army and their military personnel, they hold those investigations very close, and it is hard to get them to share information. She wrote to the Department of Defense Office of Inspector General, asking them to review the Army's investigation and report back to Congress. She even reached out to the mothers of the 7 soldiers, asking them to encourage their children to come forward with what they know. The family says the communication from the Army has been poor. They say they have been left in the dark about how their son and brother died, and they are still waiting for answers. 6 years later, no one has been charged with the murder of Enrique Roman-Martinez. The case remains open. The reward stands at $50,000. The 7 soldiers who camped with him were questioned, investigated, and in 3 cases court-martialed, but never for his death. They said he walked away. They said they searched. They said they waited to call. They said they did not mention a missing person to the Rangers because they assumed he would come back. They said he was suicidal. They said they used LSD. They said they lied. And then they went home. Enrique did not. A 21-year-old paratrooper trained for combat vanished from a remote island wearing only blue shorts, and the only people who know what happened to him have never been held accountable. If you know something, Army CID is asking you to call. The number is 910-396-8777. $50,000 waits for the truth. Enrique's family waits for the truth. And until someone talks, the dark on South Core Banks keeps it secret. The questions surrounding Enrique's final hours remain unanswered, leaving a family to mourn in the shadow of a mystery that defies logic. Do you believe this was a tragic accident of the elements? Or does the evidence point toward a sinister act among those he trusted most? We want to know your theories in the comments below, and please subscribe to Nova After Dark for more deep dives into the shadows of the unknown.